What's going on, hockey fans, and welcome to episode number 83 of Marty's Illegal Stick Hockey Podcast. Recording here on Tuesday, was it June 28th? Yeah, June 28th.
Yeah, that's it.
2022. I'm your host, Scott Kinville, and, well, guys, the season is finally over. It's all over. For now, anyways. But there's still plenty of talk to talk about. So, was that in response to your picks from last week?
Dave the save on the soundboard. Love it.
And that genius on the soundboard is our producer.
This is your fault because you got me invested in this shit.
I
so
know.
I don't want to hear about it.
Great. This is so
not
great.
It's not great. I sat there depressed after
Why?
the game.
Why is that, Dave the save?
Well, because I knew you two drumsticks made the right pick.
Well, it's like I told you, you're the young Jedi of all this. It's a learning process.
You both went, Colorado in 6. I remember that.
We did.
I know.
We absolutely did, but you still didn't do too bad though for a rookie. I'll give you that.
I picked Tampa Bay way back.
Yeah. Oh, hey.
It said 7 way back, I think.
I think you did.
Yep.
I think you
hopefully,
did.
Dave, you had some ice cream to make you feel better.
I did not.
What? You ate them all?
Yeah,
I'm sure they're gone.
Are you
What are you, my
kidding me?
daughter?
Yeah. I mean, one day they caught me unconscious with a drumstick drooling out of the corner of my mouth.
Well, sticks are unbelievable.
That's why we have an EMT doing the show.
Yeah. Yeah, great. That's
awesome.
awesome.
I got the text from Scott that he goes, well, I just got to tune into game 6 because I was out on an ambulance
call. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, I'm missing it.
He almost got called here at about 10:30 at night.
Yeah, but the game would have been over by then. It would have been all right.
Yeah.
No, I would watching the cup go somewhere else.
Yeah. Wait a second. What address is that? Oh, he could wait. Don't worry about it. Yeah. And he's unemployed. Anyways. Drew, what's going on?
Well, who would have called Colorado in 6?
We did.
Yeah.
Not
Colorado,
Dave, though.
3/4 of the season in. And you know what? We talked about Kemper. He was adequate.
That's a good way to put it, actually.
Good word.
That is actually a good way to put it.
And the goal that he gave up in game 7, that was on McCarr. It was
game 6?
Horrible turnover. Right in front of the crease.
Right. You're talking about. Oh, I thought you were talking about the Hedman goal on the backhand.
No, I was talking about the Stamkos goal in game 7, the first one.
You mean game 6?
Oh, yeah.
That's like you're screwing me up. I'm like, wait a second. Where's he going with this?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. It was a terrible turnover. And you can't make those kind of turnovers with Steven Stamkos standing there. You just can't do that. He's
the captain. He has so much experience. He's leading that team that's won 2 in a row. It was a horrendous turnover. And it was funny because of our text chain, when we were talking about I thought Colorado would go wire to wire in game 6.
Right.
And
well, you know what though? You just reminded me too with that text chain. Not only is Dave depressed, our cousin Chad's depressed too. He wanted game 7 in the worst way. He wanted one more game to gamble on.
I thought he was listening to you guys for his betting choices.
Well, yeah, but
he should have expected a game 7.
You know what the best part is when he doesn't listen to us and we're right. I love it.
Yeah,
but no, you're absolutely right. And just to touch on that with Darcy Kemper real quick, you're right. He was adequate. There were some saves that he definitely should have had. Make no mistake about it. Like I said, when he gave up that Hedman goal on the backhand from the faceoff circle, I went, oh boy, this is come crashing back to earth. Welcome back to earth, But hey, listen, he got the job done. And people don't realize too is you don't necessarily have to have the superstar in net to win the cup, right? You just have to have somebody that can get the job done.
Yeah, but I think traditionally that people say that you can ride a hot goaltender to the cup.
Right.
I think that is, it's been that way for decades. And to be fair, Vasilevsky was amazing. He still played awesome.
He did.
Like, really well.
He did.
And the difference between winning the Rangers series and losing the Avalanche series is the volume and quality of chances were so much better with the Avalanche. I mean, they just kept coming, throw everything on net, whether it's, McKinnon, Makar, Lenkinen, they just kept coming. And they didn't, Vasilevsky, he didn't face that in the Rangers series. That's how he got through, right?
Vasilevsky faced a lot of shots in the Rangers series, but he never faced the kind of chances that Colorado got.
True, but even against Colorado, he was making saves that were ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, it would have gone top shelf if it weren't for the edge of his blocker. Like, that's how good he played. And that was the one thing that came through in that series is like, you know why Tampa won all those cups, right? Is because of his play. And I thought that Hedman went away in the last couple of games. Like, you didn't hear his name at all.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said for that too. And I think actually Vasilevsky kind of learned from the Rangers series, because in that Rangers series, all they talked about was, go glove high on Vasilevsky. That's his kryptonite. That's it. And he seemed to cut that down against Colorado. Like I said, the Rangers played a really good series against them, and they put a ton of shots in, but there was nowhere near the type of chance, the high danger chances that Colorado got, as opposed to the Rangers, was a huge difference there. Let me ask you something about Vasilevsky. So, obviously he had won 2 cups in a row up to, the other night. But man, he's playing so much hockey. He's 27 years old, I believe. Now, do you think that going forward, Tampa Bay has really got to put faith in like the backup goaltender, which it looks like it's going to be Brian Elliott for one more season because he is signed through next season? Do you think maybe it's a good idea to put Moose in some more games next year just to try to get him some kind of a rest?
Sorry. Yes. And I think that would have been a great trivia question, is name the 2 backup goaltenders.
Yeah, I know, right?
Right?
I didn't know.
He just wrote them out. And I don't necessarily think that it was reps that killed Vasilevsky. I think he still played amazing and could do that kind of volume and go that kind of deep. And, people are already saying, well, you got the COVID Cup, right? When there were no fans. And then the coming back where there were some fans. And then into this year where it was like 100%, everyone's back. And I'm not trying to say that the fans are the difference. However, they just haven't been playing in front of them. And to make a transition to the end of Game 6, like, there were a lot of things that were going crazy for the Lakers.
Sure.
Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, McDonough with the cross-check that should have been a double minor. Maroon with the slash.
On Manson. Yeah.
That
broke his stick.
Yeah, that was pretty blatant. I mean, even in a playoff game, I didn't think.
How do you swallow the whistle on that? Come on.
I mean, it's games. I understand it. Like, it's Game 6, deciding game in the Stanley Cup Final. Sometimes it's easier to just go,
didn't see it.
Yeah, but it's kind of hard when it's right in front of the net and the focus is all in front of the net, right?
Yeah. And then, I mean, not to mention Stamkos, after that McDonough cross-check, slapping the puck across the ice, just happens to hit the ref's skate?
Yeah, right.
Should have also been a game misconduct in a 5-minute.
Sure. It was almost like some out of slap shot.
100%. And, and it looked so innocent, but he was looking right at the ref.
Right.
And he did it.
He was almost waiting. He's like, oh,
"You
Jesus.
slap
Yeah.
it." And then, you see the speed at which that puck exited the ref's gate, and you're just like, wow. That was not an easy tap. I'm just giving it to him for the face-off.
Right.
He was upset. And then the Kucherov thing.
Yeah.
Right? I'm certain, and to bring it back around and to frame it, so it was
like 25 seconds left.
Right?
Yeah.
So Kucherov broke a stick, went to the equipment manager, who did not have a fresh stick for him. He throws his gloves one at a time at the equipment manager.
Yep.
And then just quits.
Yeah.
Just like, I'm done.
Why not just grab somebody's stick off the bench and say, give me your stick? You're not coming out. I'm saying out. I'll tell you what, I actually think that the frustration boiled over, and I think you could really see the wheels starting to come off. It was a game 5 with the controversial overtime goal, right? That Kadri scored when there was, too many Avalanche on the ice. Although, if you look at it, there was too many Lightning on the ice as well. It was game 4. Okay. Oh, game 4. You're right. Yeah.
But they had the same thing here where they had too many men on the ice, and that was pretty clear.
Well, here's the thing, right? I mean, that's, according to the NHL, that's basically, it's a subjective call. It's up to the referees whether they think it's actually affecting, which when you really look at it, it didn't. I mean, those guys were all towards the bench. And by the way, and I know Tampa Bay fans are going to hate me saying this, but they didn't mind last year in the playoffs when the Islanders lost game 7 because Tampa Bay scored with too many men on the ice. So kind of what goes around comes around kind of deal. I mean, that's the breaks. And it stinks to lose that way. And I realized that they came back and they won game 5 in Colorado, which, by the way, kudos to them. Hey, that's what champions do, right? That's what they do. I think you could definitely see Colorado was really gripping the stick very tightly that game. It's like, oh my God, we got our home crowd. That's why it's almost like having the home crowd's a disadvantage. It's like, oh, we don't want to screw it up in front of them. They're all here waiting to party, and we lost.
Darn.
Right. But you and I, Scott, you and I were not unanticipating that happening in game 5.
I don't even know what that means. Not unanticipating. Is that a double negative?
That's the ultimate double negative right there.
And to be fair, Dave, I'm a writer.
You're fired.
So he can make that up as he goes along.
It was like, what is he saying? It's scary.
It was anticipated. We knew that the champs would make a push.
Sure.
And we knew it not only game-wise, but also when it came to game 6, that we knew that they were going to be pushing. I mean, Colorado came out hard too.
Sure.
They knew that to win it, they had to change things. But Tampa, they had won 2 cups. They know how to win. And
Sure.
I really felt that. I mean, I don't think that they should have gone up 1-0. I thought they'd go wire, Colorado. But we knew Tampa was going to push, and they tried.
Right.
And it just wasn't there. And Scott, you'll say that they were tired.
Sure.
Oh.
I think they were out of gas.
They're out of gas the whole third period. They didn't do anything.
Right.
Oh, my goodness. But that was not – that was all Colorado.
Sure was.
But they maintained what they've been doing all along, but Tampa Bay just stopped.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So let me ask you this. Cal McCarr, winner of the Conn Smythe Trophy, is playoff MVP. Right choice?
Nope.
No.
Ooh. Love him. Best defenseman in the league. Should not have won the Conn Smythe.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. You can go McKinnon, Nichutin.
Yeah.
Lincoln.
They both had a heck of a playoff. You're right.
Just like run-wise. They were dominant players. McCarr played solid. He made some, even in that last game, big mistakes.
Yeah, definitely.
But youth, I think that youth contributes to that a lot. The lack of experience, and just that third period in Game 6 really reminded me of the Capitals when they won the Cup, and just like dump it, get the puck deep, stop them on D.
Yep. Don't even let them out.
Exactly. And that's how you win cups. And we've seen it for decades. All teams, when it's a clinching game, you put the puck deep and fight them out of the zone.
Pretty much.
Right. And I think that Makar was trying to push things a little more than he should have. And that's what cost him the first goal in Game 6. And I just didn't think that his play warranted that. I mean, I think he's a great player. I think that he's going to be probably a Hall of Famer at some point, but I don't think he deserved the Conn Smythe.
Well, I don't know, Drew. The phone's ringing right now, and I think that's Kel McCarr calling to disagree with you, to be perfectly honest with you.
Phones are ringing off the hook. Here we go. Or it was the Tampa Bay fans calling because of your previous.
Probably, hate calls. But, I'll tell you, to me, there was really no clear-cut winner of the Conn Smythe. It was a lot of just apples to apples to apples to apples, right? And it's like I text you. Kel McCarr was living his absolute best life the other night, right? Stanley Cup winner, Conn Smythe winner, just won the Norris a few days prior.
And
so, you know what? I think, and especially when voters look at that, I think there's a lot of recency bias, of course, because you're in the finals. That's what's most fresh in your memory, right? So when they're all going through and they're looking, they're like, oh, well, McKinnon, I think, had 25 points or 27, something like that. Makar was right up there with him. Niskanen was a goal-scoring machine, but he didn't really have many assists. Lehkonen was a beast on defense and had the timely goals, but the stats didn't jump off the page, right? So I think a lot of them are like, well, you know what? This kid's having the greatest week of his life. We might as well just add to it, right? Because at that point, what's the difference? Because like I said, to me, there wasn't any one single player from either side, really, that stood out that said, you got to give this player the Conn Smythe. It's not like it was like in the 87 finals when, even though the Flyers lost in 7 to the Oilers, they gave it to Ron Hextall because Hextall stood on his head the entire playoff and was the only reason that they were there to begin with. So,
right. But I would actually almost say that I don't like it to give it to the losing team, but Stamkos played bananas.
Yeah, he did.
He was just putting the puck in the net. And I look at it as like, I don't know how you call it, like danger value.
Right.
When you're on the ice, is the other team in danger? And I think that for large periods of time that Makar disappeared. And I think that was the same with Hedman, right? For large periods of time. And as a defenseman, it's really hard to you're reliant on your forwards to put pressure on. And it depends on what line is out when your D line is out. And I just think that I didn't think that his playoff performance warranted the Conn Smythe.
But see, here's the thing, though. He had, like I said, he was right there along with Stamkos and McKinnon as far as points go. Stamkos and McKinnon are both forwards. They're centers.
Yeah.
That's their job. That's what they're supposed to do is put points up, right? So Makar's doing this from the blue line, which makes that, to me, just as much impressive. Even though you're right. There were times, especially in the early going of that Tampa series, where Tampa seemed to figure out how to slow him down, just got in his way. Well, really.
Not even slow him down, but just make him play his position.
Right.
Stop people from scoring, move the puck forward, and that's it. I mean, and that's the value of Makar generally, is that he's not just he can move the puck, but he can also score. So you have the two elements that people say, well, are you a puck moving defenseman or are you a scorer? And Makar fits both bills 100%. Right. I just didn't think that he was exceptional enough in the playoffs to win the Conn Smythe.
Fair enough. Fair point. Of course, we also know that the Stanley Cup playoffs are more or less a battle of attrition. I don't know if you saw some of the injury list that has come out now.
Burakovsky broke an ankle in 4 places in his thumb.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
I mean, what
was a
Kadri
lot.
went through to come back,
Yeah.
Braden Point trying to play through a torn quad. Did you see Val Nishkinen's ankle, by the way?
Yeah.
It was all purple.
Oh,
His foot, his
X-ray.
entire foot
Yeah.
was dark purple. It's like, the guys are playing with torn meniscus. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, and I don't care what anybody thinks, hockey players are far and away the toughest players in all of sport. No doubt about it. Because they will put their bodies on the line to win that cup. They don't care. We'll worry about the surgery and all that afterwards.
Yep.
I'll be able to walk again sometime. Don't worry about it. It's but Drew, now that it's all over with and we're heading into the offseason, both teams are facing some free agency questions. And it's kind of like a weird dynamic here, right? So I'm going to start with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay right now technically is over the cap. Okay, so they got to clear some space.
They've been over the cap for years.
Well, that's true. That's true. You're absolutely right.
To be fair.
So we're going to see what kind of gymnastics. Of course, they got Brent Seabrook's LTIR for the next 2 years, but that doesn't kick in until the season officially starts. They got to get below the cap, before the start of the season, and that's when. But anyways, unrestricted free agents. They got Andres Palat is going to be an unrestricted free agent. Nick Paul, who was great for them in this playoff. He really was. And Jan Ruda, who's a very good depth defenseman. Somebody is still going to have to go because I don't know how they're going to do this to get Palat back, because you got to decide right now, if you're Palat, do you want to stick around with this team that, to me,
make less money?
He's going to have to take less money, but they're no longer a guaranteed cup winner in my eyes. Don't get me wrong.
It's a rebuilding year.
No, not yet. Not yet. But,
I hear it coming.
Whoa, wait a second here. Hold on.
Going to meet that cap and go into a rebuilding year. They'll be back in 2.
But the problem with Tampa Bay is, I mean, they're still going to be a very good team. There's no reason why they shouldn't make the playoffs this coming year or the year after. But within about 2 or 3 years, they're going to face a reckoning because, after a while, trading away first-round picks, trying to stay in that window, trying to stay under the cap with the cap gymnastics, it catches up to you, right? So their minors, their pipeline is pretty diluted right now, to be honest with you. They got some decent players in Syracuse, but they don't have.
You guys see a lot of that because you see Syracuse,
right?
See who's coming up,
right? Guess what? We don't see Andrei Vasilevsky anymore. We don't see Braden Point anymore. Even Anthony Cirelli, right? So, eventually this is going to come crashing down. And if you're Palat, who I believe is 20 or 29 or 30 years old right now, I got to look it up. If somebody's going to offer him money, which I think somebody will, because I'm going to tell you right now, a guy like that is very valuable to a team. He really is. Now, whether his scoring touch is a result of being pretty much on Stamkos and Kucherov's line a lot or what remains to be seen, but he's still an outstanding defensive player, and there are teams out there that have got money to spend. If you're Palat, do you take that big money and say, you know what, I won my 2 cups, I'm good, I want to live comfortably for the rest of my life, and this is my last chance to do it?
That's for sure, yes.
Right? Or do you say,
sure,
well,
yes.
hey, listen, guys, I want to keep the band together. I want one more shot at this, especially the way we lost. I want revenge. I'll take a hometown discount, or even, maybe a 1 or 2 year contract, even though I can't possibly see him doing that.
No, but Palat is actually 31.
Okay, there you go.
Even older.
There you go.
Big difference.
He's over the hump.
He's right. He's been there for a while, and I say that as way old.
Right?
Not in hockey years, but Palat,
in hump years.
Old.
Yeah.
And it's bad timing for him because the UFA market this year is ridiculous. Like, so many superstars are available.
Kind of top heavy.
Yeah,
kind of top heavy.
Very top heavy.
But Drew,
Malkin, Subban, Giroux, Claude Giroux is he was a rental.
Yeah, you're right. But Malkin's also over 35 years old. So I don't know if somebody's going to throw gigantic money at him.
They were talking about the Caps.
Yeah, did you hear? I heard that too.
I heard that. No.
I heard that.
It's the reason that Fleury wouldn't come here. It's too close of a rival.
Well, actually, I'm going to bring the Capitals up again in just a minute. But as far as a plot goes, don't forget, there's only a few teams out there that got a lot of cap space to spend too, because everybody's up against the cap still. So from what I'm hearing now, of course, who knows how true it is, but the Seattle Kraken are going to have a lot of cap room. And apparently they are interested in getting better because their approach this season didn't quite work out as they thought it was going to. Apparently you do have to put the puck in the net in this game.
I don't know why.
I know. Weird, right?
Yeah, it's weird.
But it would be interesting to see like a plot reunited with a Yanni Gord, who is their de facto number one center right now.
And played with him for a number of years in Tampa.
Yeah, and they were on the same line for a while too.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting. I honestly, and again, never say never, but I just don't see how the Lightning end up keeping somebody like Plot. Which means that a guy like Hagel, who they gave up 2 first-round picks to get, is going to have to step up because, honestly, Brandon Hagel was not that impressive in the playoffs.
No, but he played well in the playoffs.
Not 2 first-round picks well.
No.
Yeah, no.
No. So, yeah, I mean, he's the type of guy that's got to be the future. And
and I don't think that that's a move that wins them cups, right?
No, I don't think so either. I think he was meant to come in and be that part of a strong third line that every team needs to win the cup. And it just, I won't say it didn't work out because they got to the final.
Yeah.
He's,
again, blocking shots, doing his job, and skating a regular shift. And he was great at that throughout this playoffs, not just in the finals. He was amazing. But you are exactly right. Not 2 first rounders.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
No.
Now, on the flip side of the coin, you got the defending champion Colorado Avalanche, who some think have got a dynasty in the works here. However, and they've got $25 million to spend this offseason. Seems like a lot of money, right?
Have you given him my address?
No, not yet, but I can. Right. And they're going to pay you in drumsticks.
Right.
Well, if they look at my slap shot, they'll be calling me.
Okay. No, if you say so.
No beer league stuff there.
But check out this list that Colorado's got to resign from just this team that won the cup. Nazem Kadri, Darcy Kemper,
going to the Caps.
Val Niskanen, Josh Manson, Andrei Burakovsky, Arturi Lehkonen, Darren Helm, and Andrew Cogliano. That $25 million just disappeared in a hurry.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they don't really need to get better in the offseason, but they got to try to retain who they have. And I'm going to tell you something. I think Nazem Kadri gets paid.
Yeah, he's going elsewhere. And
I keep hearing the Caps too.
Yeah, I've been hearing the Caps, and I hate to say just hearing. The hockey press has been saying potentially to the Caps. I think that Kadri ultimately is a rental, and good for him for winning the cup. But I think that the Avalanche were hurt more without Burakovsky being there than they were without Kadri being there. So, and I think that those things overlapped enough that it was Burakovsky got hurt, Kadri came back, and I think that it actually hurt them that trade-off.
Right.
Burakovsky, speed, skill, chemistry, and Kadri, solid, good player.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Burakovsky gets paid. I think Kadri moves. Helm is grit. And I think that you can get grit where you need it.
Right.
So maybe he's back in Colorado. And Cogliano is just like a long-term, like veteran presence.
He's the 1-year deal guy.
Yeah.
He's just going to sign a series of 1-year deals.
100%. Like, yeah. I mean, where does he want to live? Where does he want to retire? Like, I think that's fair.
If I'm the Avs, the names that jump out to me on that list are Josh Manson for starters. You got to have solid defensemen, and boy, I tell you, that's people overlook just how solid that Colorado defense corps is. Oh, that's really what got them there, to be honest with you.
Exactly. It's not just the car.
Not all the flash, right?
Yep.
I mean, look at that lineup that they've got, right? So to me, Manson, you got to make every effort to keep. Honestly, a guy like Lehkonen, he was phenomenal for them. And again, it goes back to what we've always talked about, right? It's so hard to win a Stanley Cup without having a solid third line.
Yeah.
And Lehkonen's another one of those ultimate third liner guys who you got to have, because you can have all the flash you want in your top six. That's great. But if you can't shut the game down when you need to, after all your flashy goal scorers have done their thing, well, if you can't shut it down, ask the Edmonton Oilers how that works out. It doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, again, being a Caps homer, do we have to talk about Devontae Smith-Pelly?
Yeah, right.
Right? Lars Eller.
Right.
Like, these guys are depth, step-up guys.
Look what Nick Dowd does for you guys.
Yeah.
So
listen,
Kadri and the Avs were the perfect marriage this season. He had a very good season with them, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But again, Kadri is kind of almost in that Palat situation, right? This is his last chance, really, to cash in. So you can't blame him for going to hit the market, especially with the season that he just had. Who wouldn't do that? I certainly would.
He's got his
Why
cup,
not?
and he has his cup.
Exactly.
So
that's what I mean.
Like,
so,
he's not chasing. Like, he doesn't have to chase to a winner.
No,
right?
No, he doesn't owe the Colorado Avalanche anything, and the Colorado Avalanche don't owe him anything. It's like, hey, this was great. This worked out. You know, we'll see in about 10 years when we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of this cup, and you can come back to Ball Arena, and it's going to be awesome, or Ball Arena, sorry. But I'm thinking Place Bell. Montreal.
I thought it was like ballerina and you had people dancing out there.
Not yet anyway. Not yet.
Yeah, okay.
But you're right. I think Kadri does. I'm telling you, especially with Backstrom's career probably being done.
Jeez. No.
You're not ready to accept that yet, huh?
We're not saying that.
Okay. Well, actually, I was thinking that, next week we really do need to cover this whole free agency topic, because that does start July 13th. So, you know what? We'll save all this for next week. I'll let you simmer down.
Don't let me write.
I'll let you. I'll let you.
Anything about hip resurfacing.
We'll talk about that next week too. In the meantime, though, this week is the NHL draft. Starts Thursday night from Montreal. That's why I got I got thinking ahead. I was kind of like the dog that starts running too fast when the front legs are moving too fast for the back legs. That's what.
I haven't seen dogs like that. Where do you see those dogs?
Go downtown. You'll see them sometimes. I'm telling you. Not a doubt.
I don't know if I am regularly doing this podcast, like, we need to do remotes. Like, we should be in Montreal.
I know, right? I know. That's
Dave, I'm looking at you.
I know. That's why I was looking out that way.
I potentially had a chance to go up and cover the draft up in Montreal.
Oh, for
this draft?
Yeah, and I'm on duty. I couldn't go.
Damn.
Yeah. Tell me all about it. Depressing.
That would have been awesome.
But the hometown Canadians have the number 1 overall pick. But the big talk is centering around the New Jersey Devils and the number 2 pick. So I'm curious, should the Devils move that pick? Because here's the deal, right? They have got a ton of young talent in their prospect pool. They're bursting at the seams with it, really. But they definitely need to get some established talent right now, especially a goal-scoring winger. They got to get one. Because I can tell you, obviously living here near Utica, the Comets are the Devils' AHL affiliate. And the New Jersey fan base is starting to get very frustrated because the talent is coming and they're used to winning by virtue of the virtual dynasty that New Jersey had for 10 to 12 years. But hard times have hit just like they do to every NHL team. And they want to see a better product put out on the ice. Well, the better product comes along with putting a goal-scoring winger, especially on Jack Hughes' line. Oof, you imagine that?
Yeah.
Because Jack Hughes, by the way, was for real. remember back in 2019, everybody was like, well, should they take Hughes or should they take Capelcaco? Well,
right, but he was not coming to Utica.
No, not at all. But what I'm saying is
going to the big guys.
He is a legit number 1 center now. Yep. And Nico Hischier is a legit 1B for lack of a better term. So do the Devils make that deal? Do they trade that pick away to get that high-scoring winger?
I think it's the right thing. I don't know who they would want to trade with. It makes sense for them.
They keep talking about Kevin Fiala from Minnesota.
Yep. Yeah.
Because Minnesota is in ultimate cap hell right now.
Right. They just want to dump salary. However, Yeah, but you're not with these entry level deals. They're so low dollar that,
Right.
like, I mean, if you sign Fiala, like, you're talking minimum amount of money.
Not Fiala. He's an RFA.
All right.
He's
Oh,
just
yeah,
coming off a
that's right.
90-point season.
Yep.
He
Yep, the
wants money. That's why Minnesota's shopping him. They're like, we can't with $14 million. No, was it $14 or $12 million in dead cap space from the Suter and the Parise buyouts for this season? They're handcuffed. They're done. I'm sure they love to give Fiala.
But we're on the same page that Subban's not coming back.
No, they've already said that.
They're not paying him.
So there's what, $9 million off the books.
Is $9 million.
Yeah.
That's
the Devils have got a lot of cap space available. So the question becomes, do you trade that number one pick and get a younger player like Fiala, who's now proven that he can play in this league? Or conversely, do you back up the Brinks truck to somebody like Philip Forsberg, or the big name I keep hearing about is Johnny Gaudreau because he's from New Jersey, but they're also going to be 28, I think it is, by the time the season starts. So you're sacrificing 3 years and you're going to be paying them top dollar. And of course, that's always the big risk every year, free agency, right? Who's going to get paid? Who's going to get the $7 million contract or the 7-year contract that is going to be terrible in 4 years, but it helps us now. So to me, if I'm the Devils, it makes more sense to me that with a team that's loaded with talent like that, instead of backing up the Brinks truck, like I said, to give it to a Forsberg or to a Gaudreau, who, will make the team better now. But let's face it, the Devils aren't going to be a cup contender for a few years yet with all that talent. Why hamstring yourself? If you're going to pay money, pay it to somebody like Fiala, who's 25 years old, and it's going to be hitting their prime right when the rest of these guys are hitting their prime.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to term too, right? Like length of contract. Like, pay him as much as you can now, but I mean, you're not giving him a 7-8 year deal. Like,
Fiala?
we're talking under 5. Yeah.
Fiala isn't going to want a 7-year deal because he'll be able to hit free agency at age 27, unrestricted free agency. So if he can keep it up, he's probably going to want like maybe a 5-year deal at the most, because that'll put him right into that 30-year-old window where he can still get one more big contract. I'm sure the Devils would love to lock him up, trade for him, and then lock him up to an 8-year contract, because once your rights are owned by the team, you can give that extra year.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I struggle with a lot, especially, as a Caps fan, because when you bring up Philip Forsberg, which is a horrible thing for me.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry.
Horrible.
This has not been a good segment for you so far.
No, not at all. Dave, I don't know if you're aware, but we traded away Philip Forsberg for Martin Erat straight up. And we had Forsberg on an entry-level deal.
Yeah.
And Erat was, to be fair, a proven veteran. Like, he had played really well. He was garbage at the Caps. Horrible.
Did that have to do with the line?
Went on to be an all-star with Nashville.
But did that have to do with the line around him, or was it just him?
It's skill. I mean, he was getting older, and Forsberg was maturing into playing really great hockey.
Yeah.
And I think, the Caps fan base saw him in all of these development camps, and they were waiting for him to crack the starting lineup. Around the same time that Burakovsky, 2-time Cup winner now, was maturing into playing really, really great hockey. And Forsberg has really just like carried that Nashville offense outside of Yossi. But I can't believe he's a free agent now. And some of the fan base here in Washington is saying, let's bring him back. I'm like, we can't pay him.
How are you going to? Yeah, you can't.
We don't have the money.
But, to be fair to Capitals management back then, Drew, Forsberg did not have that awesome mustache back then either.
No, he didn't. You're right. But he also didn't see Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, right.
I was just telling my wife, I ran into a bunch of Naval Academy midshipmen that had the same mustache.
Well, yeah. There you go.
We all see the same movie? Like, it's a horrible mustache. Yeah. No, you're definitely right. I think that this free agency season is going to be, there are teams that are going to get really great players ultimately at a discount only because the market's so rich.
Well, I will tell you this, that I don't know how great this is going to be, because it depends on what happens at the draft. And I'll tell you why. Because the Devils aren't the only team that's going to be looking to make a trade potentially. There are a few teams out there that are looking to move up to get other restricted free agents that are on the market. Alex DeBrincat.
Yeah.
It's going to cost a ton. Jacob Chikrin from Arizona. You know, guys like that. So let me ask you something. Outside of the Devils, do you see anybody else making a splash at the draft? Because that's where the high draft picks get moved, right?
Yeah, and I think that it's the people who are struggling with cap space that are going to make the biggest moves, because they're all entry-level deals. So they're either going to move that pick and grab someone off the UFA list, or they're going to sign somebody to a low dollar deal. I mean, it feels really weird to me to say that, because like I love the skill and the game, but it's budget at this point, right?
Yeah.
If you have the money to spend, you're going to shop the free agent market because it's so good this year. The free agent market is ridiculous. Yes, it's aging, but those are skilled veterans that are going to produce for your team. Or are you going to roll the dice on somebody who may or may not contribute? You know, I mean, just look back at, for one, Jack Eichel, right? Dangerous on the ice. When you saw him play for Buffalo, Buffalo was a garbage team. But when Eichel was on the ice, they were dangerous. Super dangerous. He produced high potential scoring chances, whether it was him shooting or him passing, but the puck was in the zone. And I don't want to go into micro stats. That's what we're calling it now, not fancy stats. We're calling it micro stats. He was great. And I think that there are people in the draft this year, particularly at the top, that could potentially contribute at that level. And I think that it benefits teams closer to the cap to grab those guys and take a shot. Only because this year in particular, the UFA market is so strong. And I think that people who have a lot of cap space are going to look at those guys. I mean, they have to. How can you not?
Of course they have to. Naturally, they have to. But I'll tell you something. I think that these there's some 25-year-old RFAs out there that are actually more valuable in my eyes than the 27, 28-year-old unrestricted free agents. Because like I said, you're still getting those extra 2-3 seasons out of them before they hit their prime. And frankly, with that restricted free agent tag, they're under team control. So yeah, so even if you trade for, say the Devils trade the number 2 overall pick for Kevin Fiala, they get Kevin Fiala back, and Fiala says, "No, you know what? I don't want to sign with you." Well, he's still a restricted free agent. So if another team signs him, and especially for the big money he wants, the Devils are going to get more than
can match it.
Yep. So it's the huge advantage there. And I'm going to tell you something. With this draft coming up Thursday, watch a team like the LA Kings. And I know that sounds awful homerish.
That's a homer.
However, they're bursting at the seams with prospects. And see, I tend not to get too attached to prospects, because yeah, it's great to have a lot of high-end prospects and high first round, but there's no guarantee that they're going to pan out in the NHL. It's still not a guarantee.
Yeah.
And the Kings are going to have some space available. So to me, them making the playoffs this year, of course, ends the rebuild. That's it. We're done rebuilding. We made the playoffs. It's time to be a contender. Forget all the, forget draft day drama as far as, where's our lottery ball going to end up?
I've been there.
So I'm telling you, watch a team like them. They've been linked to Alex DeBrincat and Jacob Chikrin. So it's going to be a very curious thing to see what happens. And there's also chatter that since the free agency period for the unrestricted free agents doesn't start until July 13th, to watch for a team to make Nashville an offer for the rights to Philip Forsberg. to start negotiating with him before the window opens up. So
I mean,
that'd be interesting as well.
And maybe it's only like FOMO, where I think that Forsberg can be even better than he's been in Nashville. Like,
Hell yeah.
I really think that he could be a superstar in this league. I'm afraid that he's going to land with a crappy team. And just like, if he's the only guy, he's not going to produce. He's just not.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm sure he's going to be very careful about where he goes, because he's probably going to want to, obviously a shot at a cup before he retires too.
Right. I mean, I think that that's a big part of it, right? It's like, how do you balance a shot at winning against the money? Right. Because somebody's going to dump a truckload of cash on this guy.
Sure they are.
And it's his choice whether he wants to go for the truckload of cash or a shot to win.
Right.
And I mean, like I said, I mean, just the other night, like in our text chain, like I cry my eyes out when the cup's awarded every year.
Yeah, that was an interesting text chain, by the way.
My kid leaves for 7 weeks. I don't care. I mean, I care.
Oh, God.
This is why I got interesting right here.
This is why we record this.
Yeah.
I care, but every time the cup's awarded, and you saw it dented, right?
Yeah, that was awesome. That was great.
He skates and dents it. It's
down he goes.
Like, other than one shining moment at the end of the NCAA basketball tournament, the handshake line and the celebration of around the cup is amazing. And I'm certain that Philip Forsberg wants to be part of that. He wants to be in the room.
He's not even, well, he came close with Nashville 1 year.
Yeah.
1 year.
Yep.
So you're absolutely right. Well, I'll tell you what, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, we got the Hall of Fame to talk about. But first of all, I got a little bit of breakaway trivia for you, because it's going to segue right into the Hall of Fame.
It's not the one we talked about, is it?
Nope.
I didn't Google
you guys
it.
are conspiring against me?
Well, because we can't compete with your Google on your phone. That's why.
I'm going to have to Google this one.
No, this one's actually really straightforward, cut and dry. All you got to do is guess a number.
All right.
All I want to know is, what year was Gordy Howell elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame? The answer when we come back.
Visit My Little Falls and stay connected with the latest news, information, and events in the city and the area. Our mission is to generate interest in the community and connect residents in a more meaningful way by facilitating deeper conversations about how these stories will shape the future of the Mohawk Valley. Join thousands of weekly visitors who stay up to date with feature stories, interviews, videos, our event calendar, and print publication, the Mohawk Valley Express. It's about timely local news for the community, keeping citizens informed about important issues, telling about the people who live and work here, and giving locally owned businesses the opportunity to reach a very targeted audience of locals and tourists alike. It's a whole new form of media-rich content developed specifically for today's mobile lifestyle and listeners. You can download our iOS app in the iTunes store, listen to our country music streaming radio station, or sign up for a weekly newsletter. Stop by today at mylittlefalls.com. You'll be glad you did.
Do you like that?
Yeah.
I was just visualizing just how pumped up that commercial gets me. By the way, did you ever notice that in that commercial, our friend, the doctor of hockey, Keith Labatino's in there?
I did.
So I'm going to have coffee with him tomorrow. Drew, you got to meet this guy. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's got some hockey knowledge.
Yeah, and he's an Islanders fan, so you guys will get along real good.
Well, I mean, I did not hate Trotz going to the Islanders at all. I thought that was a great match. Stupid that they fired him.
Pretty much. Boy, it's interesting, though. He's not going to be coaching this season.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
All the money out there.
Yeah. Maybe he's just had enough. He just wants to go front office.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's answer that breakaway trivia question. I'll give it to you one more time, just in case you forgot, Dave.
No, I remember.
Okay. What year was Gordy Howell elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame? Who wants to go first?
Dave, go first.
Yeah, that's true.
Mr. Carter! Mr. Carter!
73.
Okay. Drew?
What year?
What year?
No,
Not 73, dude. He was playing.
Dude, I don't
What?
know.
It's AD, by the way. Just so you know.
Oh, I was using the Calderon.
Yeah, you were looking at you were looking at Roman numerals
I
or
was
something.
looking at the Calderon. I don't know
Calderonian
what-
calendar. Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
I would say 91, maybe.
91. Okay,
Yeah, might
interesting.
even be late. No, I'll go with 91.
91.
Yeah.
Dave almost got it.
In the 80s.
Dave
What's
almost
that?
got it. Dave almost got it. It was
No.
1972.
He was still playing.
No, he wasn't. He retired from the Red Wings,
Uh-uh.
and then he came back to play.
All right,
He
here's
came back to
something
play
to
with
He's
the,
going to look it up.
with the
No,
WHA.
wait, I was alive when
My-
he was still playing.
Yeah, because he came back. Right, because he retired from the Red Wings, right?
Oh,
And then
right.
he came back to play the WHA,
Back to
and
the
then with the Whalers.
Yeah. All right.
So
I wondered why I got a dirty look from him because he.
I didn't give you a dirty look.
Yes, you did.
No, I
Because you were
didn't.
thinking I looked it up or something. I didn't. I was
I'm
nowhere
used to
near-
that by now.
So, Scott, do you want to tell us how much liquid the cup holds?
Oh, we got to. You know what? I gotta get a hold of Kevin Shea. He would know that.
Really.
Or did you find out?
In gallons or
Oh, I
liters?
You didn't? Okay. All right. Remind me. That'll be breakaway trivia for next week. So everybody's got a chance to think about it for
Oh,
the
that's
entire
it.
week.
Everybody's gotta be-
They're
they're
not going
gonna
to
be-
think about it. They're just going to Google it.
Yeah, right.
Is it out there? on Google?
I don't know. Well, you're the Google master. Go ahead and
sure
find
it
it
is.
out.
Yeah, I'll
Mr. Google over here.
You guys are busy playing, so
It's now Dave the Google Warner. So, so Drew, the latest Hockey Hall of Fame class has been announced for 2022, and it includes the Sedin brothers, Daniel Alfredson, Roberto Luongo, Riikka Salonen, and Herb Carnegie. I think they hit the nail right on the head with all these inductees. Every single one deserving to get in.
I think so. And I think it's super interesting that Alfredson played with the Sedins on the Swedish teams, and the Sedins played with Luongo in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Like there's this weird kind of meshing of people going in this year. I think it's a good class. I think it's deserving. I think it's really hard to like separate the Sedins. Like, what do you say? One's better than the other? I mean, would they have been Hall of Famers if they had played, one had played in Vancouver and one had played in Florida? I don't know.
Right.
But the numbers are there. It supports them. So I think it's a good I mean, Alfredson, no question.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
And he played on so many just bad teams, right?
I know.
Just,
Poor guy.
right. And just contributed and did amazing.
Hold on, I got to cut you off for just a second because Dave's gonna burst if I don't let him talk here. Hold on a
All
second.
right.
There's a water balloon that's getting overfilled.
because
so.
I know that anybody who would be listening and who looked this up, it's hilarious. So it's not how much does it hold, and they're calling us now to let us know. You're thinking water, whatever.
Yeah.
No, they measure it in cans
We're
of
not thinking
beer.
water.
Yes.
Yes.
They measure it in cans of beer. How many cans of beer does the Stanley Cup hold? It's 14.
Really? That's it?
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know. I was thinking that's not a
Man.
lot, but maybe it's big
Huh.
big cans.
Well, you know what though? I suppose though you got to be able to do that because you got to be able to party all night with it. And if you put too much in at one time, that could kill the party.
But I
right?
just thought that was so hockey to
It is.
measure it in cans.
That's
of beer.
amazing. But what size cans of beer? Is it 12
I'm guessing
ounces?
12.
15 ounce?
12 ounces.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably 12 ounces.
Interesting.
I that's all I could find. I couldn't find anybody
We
measuring
need
it
our,
in
we need
gallons
our
or-
own cup.
gallons or liters.
That's what we need. Our
Yeah,
own cup right
we
here.
need
Well,
one.
we do, except they're super expensive. to
Well,
go
yeah.
back with them.
Oh,
Let me
that's
tell
look,
you.
I just said we needed one. I didn't say anything about paying for it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, back to the Hall of Fame though. I mean, that's you know what? It's funny that little connection. It reminded me of like that 6 Ways to Kevin Bacon game.
Yeah. 100%.
But we're both in agreement. Every single one of these inductees absolutely deserve to get in. However, every year there's always players that get snubbed for whatever reason. So I'm going to go down a list here for you, and I got their stats available if you want them.
Wait, is it their last year of eligibility?
I think next to last year.
Okay.
So I want you to let me know which of these players you think should be in and which of them, rightfully so, not in yet. So First up is Alex McGillney, Curtis Joseph, Rod Brindamore, Jeremy Roenick, Pierre Turgeron, Keith Tkachuk, and Gary Suter.
Woof.
Who is getting the shaft?
I don't know, but I'd skate with those guys on my line all day. It's really tough. I think JR has gotten a bad rap because of his post-hockey career.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Like he has a PR problem.
Just a little one.
Brindamore will have more chances being in the front office and management. So it's okay that he's not in there because he may ultimately end up in there from a leadership standpoint, I think. Tkachuk, it's fine. Like, I don't have a problem with him missing out at all. Like, he has good numbers, long career, really tough, nails guy to play against. Hall of Famer. I mean, where do you put the stick?
Yeah.
You know,
right.
I don't think Tkachuk is there. McGillney is a really tough one.
The one that the two that jump out the most, and you know what, you're right with JR. Now he's a 500 goal scorer.
Yeah.
And usually that's a pretty good shot you're going to get in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But he's not. You know who else? You got Keith Tkachuk, who scored 538 goals in his career. Right? You would think, nope, should be a surefire Hall of Famer. He's not.
I don't think that's the mark anymore.
You know who surprised me on this list? And I didn't think he had these kind of numbers, but he does. Pierre Turgeron. So in 1,294 games played, he's got 515 goals, 812 assists for 1,327 points. And he's not in.
And I don't think that he was a top liner wherever he's been. I think
he started out as, but I mean, there was all kinds of pressure from coming out as the number one overall coming out of the draft.
But I think that he was a significant contributor not playing against top defensive lines for a long time in his career.
Right.
And you're right. Like that's a shocker. Like I would have never guessed his numbers.
No.
If you want to talk about trivia, I would have never guessed 1,400 points.
Right. No, not at all.
Ridiculous. That's a rack of points. I knew JR had the points. I know that he has a PR problem.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No doubt.
Right.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
I tell you, the two that are really the big ones though for me are McGillney and Curtis Joseph. So McGillney's numbers out. Listen to this. Now I just read you those guys. You know, Pierre Turgeron, Keith Tkachuk, Roenick. They've all played at least 1,200 games in this league, right? Alexander McGillney played 990 games, and he had 473 goals, 559 assists for 1,032 points. 473 goals in 990 games played, and they don't put him in the Hall of Fame. And the impact that he had on the game, because if you recall, he defected. Yeah. Because the Soviet Union was still had that ironclad hold on players at that time. And he said, no, I am not going to play your game where, I'm going to stay in the Soviet Union and play until I'm 33 so that I can get tossed to the NHL, sort of like what happened with Slava Fetisov, right? Yeah. Where you're going to play when you're in your 30s, but no, I'm going to go over now when I'm young and I can make big money. And he risked his life to do it. That in itself, right? And then to put up those kind of numbers and not be in the Hall of Fame? Are you kidding?
Yeah. He's one that I remember growing up, just like thinking of him as, again, like we just talked about earlier, when he was on the ice, dangerous things happened.
Sure.
Right? He was dangerous.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't think that Keith Tkachuk was the same way. I mean, I think he took advantage of situations where he was on the ice and the puck finds people. But McGillney creates that the same way that I think that McDavid creates it. And I was totally wrong on my MVP pick.
Boy,
I'm going to eat
that. Would surprise me.
You can chirp me all day long.
That one in the Norris, that really surprised me too, to be honest with you.
Yeah, me too.
I thought that was Yossi's for the taking. I really 100%.
Did. And I think that some of it was, and I know the voting was done before the playoffs, but like watching Makar, like, how can you not pick him? But like you and I both said, I mean, Yossi was such a giant part of their offense.
Absolutely.
It was bad. But in the same way that I think that Tkachuk, I don't think should be there. I think that he was an opportunist, but I think that McGillney was a creator.
Right.
Which is a giant change. I don't think you can give him, I mean, you don't get Hall of Fame points for defecting and all the stuff that's going on in your personal life. Like,
no, not at all. But still, it still made an impact on the game. And it really opened the floodgates.
Yeah, for sure.
Between him and Fedorov, right?
Yep.
And it's interesting with Tkachuk is now you make me think, right? I don't recall Keith Tkachuk playing on a lot of bad teams. It always seemed like he always wound up on a very good team, right?
Yep.
Whereas McGillney, Buffalo was good back then, but they weren't great. Right. And then, so the other one I want to talk, Curtis Joseph. Okay, now listen, Roberto Luongo absolutely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Okay, Roberto Luongo's career numbers are 1,044 games played, 489 wins, a .919 save percentage, a 2.52 goals against average, and he had 77 career shutouts. Curtis Joseph, played in 943 games. He had 454 wins. He had a .906 save percentage, a 2.79 goals against average, and he had 51 shutouts. Now, keep in mind, Curtis Joseph didn't play on a lot of good teams in his career, but Curtis Joseph was lights out. I mean, yeah, he was definitely played on some good teams in St. Louis. He helped backstop, I believe it was the Oilers, right, to the Cup Final in 2006, if I'm not mistaken. But let's face it, the teams that he played on in Toronto weren't exactly defensive stalwarts, okay? So
they were struggling.
Man, they're just like, Curtis, you're on your own.
But how much of that is just like the Toronto market? Like, we are so aware of Cujo. And I mean, not to compare him to Luongo, but Luongo was kind of a journeyman. I mean, Florida, Vancouver, it's across continent.
Yeah.
Not even countries. Like, you're from the southernest most point of Florida all the way up to,
that's true. That's true.
Distant point. I think that there's again, same thing with JR, a PR thing, right? It's like, is he the best guy? Is he not? I think that Cujo played on enough bad teams that it hurts his chances at the Hall.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for that. And I think where I think Cujo really suffers is in that class of goaltenders that he played with at that time too.
Oh, geez.
You're playing in the shadow of like Marty Brodeur, Patrick Waugh, Hasek, Eddie Belfour.
Oh,
right. That's just to name a few. Those guys are all obviously well-deserving surefire Hall of Famers, and I totally agree that Bobby Lou should be in. Roberto Luongo. I totally agree. But when you're in that, and I guess the best way to put it is in their shadow. Yeah, that's awful hard to break that because people just kind of put that. Well, those five guys are the top in that particular era. Yeah, Curtis, he was great, but he's not those five.
Yeah, you're right. It does become like a perception problem. If you look at the numbers, against other people who are in the Hall, you're just like, yeah, of course he belongs there.
Sure.
But if you just look at it without framing it with the other dudes around him, he's in. Easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it gets super weird.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Super weird.
But yeah, like I said, overall, I think they did very well as far as the selection committee goes.
Yeah, I think their picks are good. Like I said, I think that the Sedins, I think separately, had they gone to different teams, I mean, it's like you and I going to the same team. We'd be awesome. Right.
Oh yeah. Oh, you kidding me? We wouldn't be doing this show. We'd be living in a mansion somewhere.
Easy. Right. I think that was a huge advantage for both of them. And
well, if you recall, there was a story they weren't going to come over unless they could play together.
Unless they could play together.
And Brian Burke, who was the general manager and president of hockey operations for the Vancouver Canucks at the time, pretty much moved heaven and earth to get the picks to be able to get them together. And boy, I tell you, it almost paid off in 2011. Yeah. It almost did. It really did.
It's very close. Although Brian Burke now on the hot seat in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think Berkey puts himself in the hot seat sometimes just because I think he just 100%. Likes it. You know,
and that's I actually, you know, back to the Hall of Fame discussion is the Sedins. I think if they play separately, I don't think that they're exceptional. I think they're great players. I think you love to have them on your team, but unless they're together, it's not the same. They're not Daniel Alfredson.
No.
Right?
No.
And so while I applaud the Hall for picking them, I think that it warrants a footnote. Like they played together, they were great, but if they had played separately, they'd be great.
Yep.
Maybe
we just
not
don't know.
Hall of Fame worthy. Exactly. You don't.
We
know.
Just don't know.
Yeah.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Well, Drew, this has been fun. This has been, and you know, it's so sad to see the season come to an end.
The worst day of the worst and best. Cry at the cup getting awarded, and then what am I going to watch?
It almost feels like Mr. Rogers. Remember when that used to end?
It's the end.
It's
One
over.
more thing before we go, and I know Dave
we'll be
has
back.
to go. The coaching situation in Boston.
Oh,
I've heard my boy Jeff Halpern in the mix, and I
Stephen
think
Leach.
he'd be a great choice. Cooper's right-hand man. Cooper, who whined after every call, but to his credit, also said to the press that it is what it is when the referees make the call. But I think that Halpern and Boston, nice match. You got to talk to Connor about that.
Well, you know, I'll tell you something. It looks like Patrice Bergeron's going to come back on a 1-year deal, so that helps everything out too.
They say Pasta wants out.
Well,
Pasternak wants out.
That remains to be seen. You know, it's kind of an ugly situation in Boston right now too, and I'm shocked that Don Sweeney got extended as general manager, given the apparent miscommunication between him and Cam Neely as far as what they were.
You're going to be fine.
So
you're fired.
Yeah. By the
way, so ridiculous. You're exactly right. Yeah, I only wanted to keep that. I had that as like a footnote in my notes. I just wanted to say like, that situation is a show.
Oh, yes. And it's only going to get better.
Worth watching, worth paying attention to 100%.
It's going to be must-see TV.
100%.
Well, like I said, Drew, this was fun. And again, like I said, it's like the end of Mr. Rogers, but we will be back next week because we got a lot of free agency stuff to talk about.
Oh, geez. Yep.
And you know what's going to go down at the draft this weekend and all that. So we promise you we will be back without a shadow of a doubt. So
you know where to find me.
Right absolutely. Here. Absolutely. Now, like I said, poor Chad, he's going to have to figure out something to do for the offseason. But that's okay.
I don't know who's going to bet on now.
He'll find something. Don't you worry.
He's got to listen to the end to hear it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right. Well, for Drew Bray, for Dave the Save Warner, I'm Scott Kinville. We want to thank you for listening. Just remind you that you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. And to please subscribe to the show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your shows. So anyways, like I said, thanks for listening, and we will see you next week on Marty's Illegal Stick Hockey Podcast.